back, guys. This is Automotive Anonymous. That's the all-new refreshed 2024 Subaru Outback Wilderness. And trust me, there's a lot more than just a new grille and a new front fascia. There's a lot of other things to talk about to decide if it's worth a few extra grand over the outgoing model. So today we're gonna do our typical review. We're gonna do a walk around, go through the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 with a GPS, and then final thoughts to help you decide. Do you leave the Outback Wilderness at the lot and consider the competition, or is this the off-road machine for you? Big thanks to the Twin Falls Subaru for letting me borrow it for the day. Otherwise, we're gonna dive right in with this review. Before we really get into what the refreshed Wilderness has to offer, we need to talk about what the Outback is. This is still part of the 6th generation of the Outback that started in 2020. So it's the 5th year of the Outback for this generation and the 3rd year of the Wilderness. The Subaru Outback started as a legacy. The front half is basically a legacy, just a slightly different exterior. And then it's the wagon. So instead of the sedan rear end, it's a wagon, and then it's lifted. A base Outback has 8.7 inches of ground clearance. The Wilderness, you may already know, has 9.5. And the legacy, like most sedans, have kind of fallen to the wayside. Subaru only sells 20 to 65,000 of them every single year in the United States, depending on when the refreshes happen, how the weather's been that year, a bunch of other variations, and what the competition currently is. Meanwhile, the Outback sells 140 to 180,000 units every year. So well over 3 times as many in the same model year. They're very capable, very practical. In fact, I own an Outback Wilderness. I've had it for over 27,000 miles. I was one of the first people to get one in the fall of 2022, and it's been dead reliable. It's done everything really well that I've wanted to. And Subaru does a good job offering an Outback for basically every budget and every buyer. There's 9 trim levels for 2024. A base starts at about $29,000, which is $1,000 more than last year. And then a Wilderness like this starts at about 40 grand, and you may be wondering, why is it a little bit more than last year? Well, you're gonna see pretty soon why those changes are, and I think they're actually worth it because it's a lot of stuff that people have been asking for. But keep in mind, it's still a 5-star crash test rated vehicle. It's still a top safety pick plus. And this trim level specifically has a lot of safety features. It has the 3rd gen eyesight camera, which is the 2 cameras, not to be confused with the 4th gen. That's the 3 cameras on a few of the higher Outback trim levels and some of the other vehicles offered by Subaru. It still has the basic heads-up display, turn signals in the mirror, blind spot monitoring, automatic braking. This one has option package 22 specifically, which means it has navigation, the power moonroof, and rear cross traffic alert and braking. So there's really a lot of safety features in the Outback that actively keep you and your family safe. And then passively, if it were to be in an accident, the Outback's designed really well that it holds up fairly well to crashes for being the kind of vehicle which is a crossover that this is. The Outbacks are still manufactured and assembled in Lafayette, Indiana, which some people like that it's USA built. Other people would actually like to see these made in Japan and then shipped overseas. But the Outback is still 6 feet wide, 5.5 feet tall, 16 feet long with a 9-foot wheelbase. They have a payload capacity of about 1,200 pounds, which means that's how much stuff and people you can carry. They weigh 3,900 pounds themselves. Again, 9.5 inches of ground clearance means it's very capable. Symmetrical all-wheel drive with a CVT. I'll show you under the hood soon enough. They can tow 3,500 pounds with their 444 final drive ratio. A regular non-turbo Outback can tow a measly 2,700 pounds. So they're pretty capable for what they are. When you crank the wheel all the way, they can do a full circle in 36 feet, and then they're rated a little bit more conservatively. The gas tank's on the passenger side, 21 city, 26 highway. When the vehicle's locked, the gas tank's locked, but when it's unlocked like it is right now, that's how you open it. So with an 18.5 gallon tank, you're gonna be road tripping for about 480 miles if you're conservative on the highway. There's a few details I've already given away, but now we're gonna talk about specifically the Wilderness, which again starts at 40 grand for this year. But the way this one is spec'd with a few extra options like option package 22 and a few other little goodies, it's actually about 44.5. So when you're gonna go Wilderness, you gain the option of having Geyser Blue. I always accidentally call it Geezer Blue, but I'm just gonna call it the Blue Outback Wilderness, which is the launch color. 9.5 inches of ground clearance, skid plate, Yokohama Geolandar all-terrain tires, which have held up really well on mine and do phenomenal in the winter. They're a 225, 65, 17. The wheels look good, and they also have held up really well on my own personal Outback. You also have copper accents throughout, 2 attachment points in the front bumper and the rear for tow. You have the extra, almost like a pinstripe copper to add a little bit more accent on this one. There are those copper accents in the back. You still have all the options like the power lift gate, all the things you'd normally get on the Onyx XT, such as the StarTech seats and many of those safety features. The final drive ratio, the 700-pound static weighted roof rail, so you can actually put a rooftop tent on this, and then still the same 6 colors as you were offered in the Outback last year. I do wish they offered the mahogany pearl, but maybe we'll get that down the road. If you like the Wilderness or you like my video, please consider liking the video, give it a big thumbs up. Your act of kindness really supports my channel and helps it to grow. Thank you. You guys have waited long enough to see inside, and I'm gonna give it away. The big updates for 2024 is it now has a heated steering wheel and has Harman Kardon speakers, something a lot of people have wanted on the Wilderness trim level, rather than having to get a limited or touring or the XT models for that. This still has proximity key features, so you can leave that puppy in your pocket and just walk up to the door to lock and unlock, or you can have the My Subaru app you pay a couple $100 for to have a few year-long subscription, and you can lock it, unlock it, remote start it, and look at its specs from anywhere in the world. On the door panel, it looks basically identical to the other 2 years of the Outback Wilderness. Wide armrest, soft touch materials, copper stitching from their deal with Hobby Lobby, nice big handle. Harman Kardon speakers though, that's new. Bottle holder, miniature size door pocket. I wish they would just extend that thing. And then the door sill has the Subaru emblem, middle sized, a little bit of grip. The all-weather mats look really nice. Rubberized pedals. It doesn't have the aluminum pedals like mine does. Hood release, fuse box. The same hatch options and dash lighting options. Trip reset, lighting stock. 10-way power adjustment seats with Subaru Wilderness stamped in, and then a nice moonroof up top. Sitting inside the Wilderness is a really nice place to be. It's very human-centric design. I'm 5'11" and I have plenty of headroom, plenty of arm and leg room. That's honestly pretty comfortable. Even our backpack's having a good time, and the seats are fairly well bolstered. They're not too aggressive, but they are going to hold you in place unless you take a corner too fast. Push button start to fire it up. The needles dance. Subaru Wilderness appears rather than the Subaru icon on most other Subaru models. And then going through the leather wrapped steering wheel with the really nice 8-speed paddle shifters for the CVT is volume and voice controls on the left with the toggle switch to go through the center display. The right of the wheel has adaptive cruise features, and then the coveted heated seat button that our Canadian Wilderness friends used to get, but now we get it too. Otherwise, the 11.6-inch screen is maybe a little bit faster than the outgoing one, but not a lot different, honestly. I think you have your widgets up top that you can change. Here's the reverse camera. Trajectory lines do move. Honestly, I wish the screen quality was a little bit better. If you want to go to your front-facing camera, you can do that up to 10 miles an hour while you're driving. I do like that for when I'm parking. Otherwise, you have a few climate control buttons on the left, but most of it is controlled through the screen, as is X mode stage 1 and 2. Otherwise, you're gonna have to turn off, you know, auto start stop each time. You could have a wireless charger there. Otherwise, you get some pretty powerful USB plugins, electronic parking brake, kind of like a piano black around the shifter, which is a leather wrap boot, more orange copper stitching. You have your cup holders, which are pretty deep. 2-stage center console with a 12-volt. And then up top, this one of course has HomeLink auto dimming mirrors for the rear and the side, and your compass, as well as your sunglass holder and your controls for that power moonroof. But you know what, guys? Let's turn it off. Let's hop in the back and see how we fit behind ourselves. The Wilderness and the Outback specifically have a phenomenal back seat area. Starting with the door panel though, that's basically unchanged from the last 2 model years of this. Nice soft touch materials, mostly dark trim pieces, but you know, it looks good, it holds up well. You have a little bit of grip in case you need to step up there to get up to your roof rails. And then 60-40 split seat, StarTechs, they drop easily. Subaru seats are usually pretty light. Double mat pocket with the pan flits. And you can even recline the seat a few degrees by pulling that and then pushing the seat backwards. All other mats back here. I'm 5'11". I have a few inches of room even with the seat up. And then ventilation, heated seats, plugins, a couple cup holders, and a pretty decent, pretty supportive center armrest. Sitting in the back of the Wilderness, it honestly feels pretty good, very spacious. I don't feel claustrophobic, although there are a lot of black colors in here. But let's hop out and show you the hatchback. The rear of the Wilderness looks exactly the same to me. You still have the pin code. I have a video on how to set that, which is a really cool feature to get in and out of your vehicle without the keys on you. But you still have the push lift, which is automatic, which is nice. 33 cubic feet back here with the seats up. If you use these handles and drop the seats, you get 75. So you can pretty easily car camp back here, especially where there's about 68 inches of max room, something in that ballpark from here to the seat if it's all the way forward. Otherwise, you have Subaru Wilderness floor mats, which are a little bit different than my 2022. You have a Harman Kardon speaker, you have some bag clips, again the handle, you have a 12 volt back here, and a little mesh pocket behind the other wheel well, with a full-size spare tire down here, and a tiny bit of periphery room. Where are you guys gonna hide down there? Comment below. Otherwise, your eye bolt hole to tow it, all of your tools are down there. And then you can see the grooves in the foam for your privacy shade if you want. And then of course you can lock and lower, or just lower and leave it unlocked. Before we open the back passenger door, I want to mention this one does have the extra cladding if you're wondering what that looks like. Otherwise, the door panel is identical, nothing really different on the back passenger side. You still have the same double mat pockets with the pamphlets, the all-weather mats, the grip, and then the 60 split. You can also then see how these lay pretty close to flat. There's really a lot of room, a lot of capability when you're in the back of an Outback. And then if you're riding shotgun, you get the land of a minimally bigger door panel and advertised Harman Kardon speakers. Otherwise, it's about the same. You still have the same basic grip, the same basic Subaru printed in there, and a few less options than the driver for the power seats, but they are comfortable, and our backpack's having a good time. Otherwise, you have a little bit of extra storage here, a little bit up here above the glove box, and then it is locking, and there's a 12 volt hidden away right there. So, not too bad. This is basically the only Subaru model that includes the 12 volt in the glove box. I know you guys have been waiting a long time. It's time to pop the hood and show you what the FA24 turbo engine looks like. And there it is, 260 peak horse, 277 peak pound-feet of torque that starts at 2,000 RPM, which is very low in the RPM band. So this thing feels really punchy around town. There's no longer an external hood scoop on turbo Outbacks, but you have the internal one that goes ventilation through the grill to cool down the intercooler. Otherwise, air comes in through the grill to go through the filter, disappear through all the piping and plumbing to get through the turbo, to eventually come around to the cooled intercooler, throttle body, upper intake manifold, and then into the boxer engine. You have all of your reservoirs up top, your battery on the driver's side. Everything's easy to get to, easy to identify. And then if you ever had basic maintenance like an alternator change, a serpentine belt change, they're literally right there. Probably the easiest vehicle in the world to change those things on. And in the time I've had mine, it's performed exceptionally well, and this power plant with the final drive 444 rear end really feels very punchy on the road. Let's drop the hood. Time for my favorite part. We're gonna time travel and teleport to the road and see how it drives. Initial driving impressions of the Wilderness is that it's a fantastic vehicle. I've spent over 27,000 miles in my own personal Outback Wilderness, which is a 22, as well as driven, you know, a dozen other turbo Outbacks for reviews. And this one feels better than any of the previous ones that I have done. Obviously, visibility is still really good. You have, you know, just under a 4,000 pound curb weight, 9.5 inches of ground clearance, so you feel very capable on the road, especially with all-terrain tires, which do really good in the snow. I've driven through 2 winters in mine, and I couldn't be happier with it. All the creature comforts are there, very good ergonomics for human-centric feelings in here. Lots of extra storage cubbies and compartments. The touchscreen is slightly improved, it feels like, even over the 23s, but really it's still a little bit laggy, a little bit slower, and then Subaru heated seats just don't get that hot compared to some of the other brands that this competes against. But they're not going to burn you, so if you have diabetes, you don't have to worry if your sensation's poor. But honestly, this one feels a little bit sharper, a little bit more buttoned down than my 22, whether that's slightly different CVT tuning for the performance, as you're going to see pretty soon, for being almost a mile above sea level density altitude today. This one's actually a little bit quicker than I was expecting by a few tenths of a second, given our elements. But also the suspension, it feels smoother, but also feels a little bit stiffer when it needs to be. When I floor it, I can actually feel the front of the vehicle lift up a little bit, which I don't think I can feel on my own. It feels sharper, if that makes sense. Additionally, having the heated steering wheel, having the Harman Kardon speakers standard on this is pretty darn cool. That's something a lot of us have wished for the last 2 years. Our Canadian friends have had the heated steering wheel, but now you can even get the Harman Kardon speakers, which before were reserved for the limited and the touring trim levels. Now you get the Wilderness with the fancier stuff inside, which I think is really neat. The speakers do sound good. They are an upgrade over the factory ones, of course, but if you don't have the upgraded Harman Kardon, you can, of course, get some aftermarket speakers on your own if you want. This really does feel quite a bit sharper than mine. I don't know that there's any less body roll, but it feels stiffer in the straight line acceleration. And it's a Wilderness, so skid plate, you know, more aggressive rear diff. There's a lot of good things going for it that will make this get you to your campsites and do, you know, a lot of things that you couldn't do in other crossovers that aren't as capable. But what are your thoughts, guys? Do you like the changes? Have you driven one? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, we're gonna get to our private road and do a 0 to 60. 0 to 60 in the 24 Wilderness. Traction control's off. I'll brake rev the CVT. True altitude's about 3,800 feet, but density altitude's 4,800 feet. So even though we're turboed, we're still compressing less oxygen dense air, and this vehicle could be down in power as much as 8 or 9%. I'll verbalize the true 0 to 60 and then I'll post a GPS graph after. Let's go. And true 0 to 60 came in at 6.89 seconds. Not bad for our density altitude. Here's the graph and then our final thoughts. Final thoughts of the Outback Wilderness with its refreshes for 2024. Even on a windy day like today, it's unscaled, it's unscathed, and it's not gonna have any effects negatively because of that. These things are extremely capable for being a unibody wagon type of vehicle, having almost 10 inches of ground clearance, getting mid-20s on the highway, and doing 0 to 60 in well under 7 seconds, even at a mile above sea level. That's honestly pretty impressive, and it's pretty cool how technology has come a long ways over the decades, especially when you have all-terrain tires. You have a skid plate. You can basically just about tow an Outback behind an Outback with its tow rating, and you can take the whole family on a road trip knowing that you're safe as much as you can be for being behind the wheel of an automobile with a 5-star crash test rating, a top safety pick plus. Subaru cares that you're safe, maybe so that you'll buy more Subarus down the road. But also, they don't want to be known for unsafe vehicles. Who would? And they put a lot of effort into providing you a lot of standard safety features. I've honestly really enjoyed my time owning an Outback Wilderness, and for the foreseeable future, I'm going to keep mine. But this new 2024 honestly does feel a little bit stiffer, a little bit better than mine. I think the tweaks that they've made over the last 2 years have really done it good. And if you're considering one of these over the competition, I think you're gonna like it. But always test drive multiple models, multiple brands. Make sure that you pick the right choice for you. If you like my video, please consider giving it a big thumbs up. I try to post 1 to 3 times a week on average, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.